there's 240,000 exiting veterans. Of that, probably our target demographic. We're not going to help lawyers become lawyers. That's not what we're tooled for. We're not going to, if you want to be a dentist, well, you got to go to dental school, right?
Yeah.
What we can help you do is land a, $90,000 on average job through one of our many certifications. So we pick certifications that help you become managers of whatever. So plan, lead, organize, and control assets and resources in different specialties. So there's general management, and then there's specialized management. Project management is a subset of management, and it's a specialized management of dealing with, pretty much people resources, getting things done, time deadlines.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Jeremy Burdick, who is the COO of Vets2PM. Jeremy, I'm excited to have you here today.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. Really appreciate it. I think, I'm really excited. I didn't do a whole lot of homework, so hopefully this will be a really raw and a visceral reaction to anything you ask.
Yeah, and I think those are the best conversations. So we'll start off with obviously telling everyone a little bit more about Vets2PM, who you guys are all about, and obviously how did the company even start as a starting point there?
Yeah, really cool story. Eric Doc Wright, PhD, he was basically a Navy guy. Got out, was mostly medically what they call separated. I was as well. And what that does is it really reduces the amount of time that you know what you're going to do or your exit date. So they basically tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, sailor or airman, in my case, it's time to go. And that means you've got about 6 weeks or so to get everything in order to change your entire life. And so what Doc said was never again. We're not going to do that. We're not going to have bad transitions because we're going to prepare people correctly. And that's really where Vets2PM got its names, with veterans to professional managers. We do focus on project managers, but ultimately it was because he got banged around in the job desert when he transitioned. Went on to be very successful. Became a doctor, a chair at college, university style, and kind of reinvigorated that dream with $500 and said, hey, I'm going to start this company. And, 10 years and some months later, here we are. We serve about 2,000 veterans every year, around, it's around a $3 million business, somewhere there, plus or minus, just depending on, how it shakes out. And we're growing 25% each year. So,
awesome.
That's the year over year growth that we get from word of mouth. And so what we really do is we intake the veteran. We help them earn a certification that hiring managers value. Take the PMP, for example. You don't have to have a conversation on, oh, hey, do you know how to do project? Yeah, my credential says it does, right? So it's just less conversation. Now we just have to find out if you're a cultural fit for the organization.
Sure.
And then we're off to the races. So we prepare them to interview like a civilian. We prepare their resume like a civilian. And then we work with about 1,347 was the last count of companies that we have alumni in.
That's so awesome. And I wanted to touch on something that's we actually spoke about before we even started this recording here, which is it's such an incredible opportunity because these vets have so many skills that are translatable into other things. It's just that the lack of awareness that these skills can be translated and how to apply that, which is what you said, teach them how to interview as a civilian, resume as a civilian, all these things. And I find it so interesting that there are still so many, I'm not sure if you actually know a number of veterans who are unemployed, but obviously have the skills to be able to get jobs that are very, I wouldn't say low level jobs. There are jobs that are, hey, you're managing a lot of things just as you managed back when you were a vet. So it's very translatable. Would you have actually a number that's of unemployed vets at the moment in the U.S.?
Well, I know there's 240,000 exiting service members. And the problem with a lot of statistics are, even if they do get a job, we don't follow through. They say about 70% of first-time veterans, they get one job when they get out, and then they leave that job. And so they bounce around, about to 7 jobs or so before they really start to land and get their feet warm. And, that's part of it. As far as fully veteran, because you're a veteran forever.
Yeah, of course.
I don't have the statistic for how many people are employed. I know the number's pretty substantive. And it's really substantive for that first 4-year period. And that's where we work with our local workforce boards to try to get them grants to pay for their training, to get them into this at no cost to the veterans. So that's one of the big things that we're a little bit different at Vets2PM, where we try to say,
Mhm.
hey, at no cost to you, you deserve meaningful and lucrative employment. To your point, it's not entry level jobs. We want to put you at mid to higher tier management job because you've had that experience
Mhm.
planning, leading, organizing,
Yeah.
and controlling resources. I mean, that's really what companies need.
And that's so interesting. So I would love to get some clarity as well. So obviously, the end, I guess, the end user, the end benefiter of this entire thing is the vet who was able to find that opportunity. But it sounds like you guys actually work with the organizations, with the companies, and then funnel that down into the vets who are coming into your program. Is that correct? So I guess the business relationship is with the companies, and then the end benefiter is the vets.
And it depends. So that's a great question. And there's a couple different entry paths.
Sure.
While you're still in service, you have a couple different benefits. Like you can use veteran or the VA Veterans Association funding. They do more of a reimbursement, so you got to come out of pocket. So
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily be a net loss for the veteran,
Hmm.
but it's still that's hard to come up with. They also have what's called credentialing and licensing, and the services call them cool. So it's a cool program where serving in the Air Force, I had access to be able to go train and get
Hmm.
that training money recoup, or they would just pay it up front for me. And then if I didn't pass the exam, they'd come back and say, hey, Jeremy, it's time to pay us that money back because you didn't
Hmm.
follow through on your end of the bargain. Army does it as well. Marines and Navy, not so much for the training. They'll cover exam fees.
Hmm.
So we're working, hopefully they'll crank that up. But that's where the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act has helped out with several of the individuals don't have funding available. We can get it
Hmm.
granted through the local workforce, but each individual state has individual regions that all
Hmm.
answer to DOL. So the funding streams can get a little crazy. But to your point and what your question was, so that's for the in service. What
Hmm.
about the veteran that has gotten out or is about to transition? We use the DoD Skill Bridge program,
Hmm.
and we go find host sites. So let's say, Siemens International or, Siemens Energy or
Hmm.
healthcare says, hey, I want 4 veterans on my team. We can go and we make a partnership with them and we go find those veterans, place them in their company for up to 180 days, and they get real world work experience, certification training through Vets2PM, and then all those additional free resources of
Hmm.
interviewing and everything else. So we're seeing them get hired at an 82% full
Wow.
time rate. So it's off the charts when when we work with the actual company that has a need. Let us be your pain point, medicine kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll get you the talent, but we'll also take care of them and all the DoD paperwork that comes along with
That's
it.
so interesting. So it's the company partnership. I guess that's where the majority of the business revenue comes through. But then you're like, hey, we're not only going to give you the talent, we're also going to train and take care of everything that they need to just hop in there and just perform.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
that's so interesting. So interesting. And going on to the business side, I guess, of Vest2PM, you mentioned 10 years. So 10 years, $500 in a dream, and now 10 years later. What were some of the challenges as you were growing the company, and as you were trying to build it to what it is today, that's maybe are different from the challenges now? So I guess what were the challenges back then, and how do they differ from what you guys go through now to still look for that growth?
Yeah, that's another good question too, because what we end up having, it's very different organizational as you run through these different levels of
Hmm.
organization, where it's a CEO or a founder and a dream. How do we take that dream and metastasize it into, hey, this is some action, right?
Hmm.
And that's really the first big hurdle for any small business is how do I turn a thought into something that I can control or touch, and that kind of was there pretty much through the certification because it was like, hey, we know veterans know how to run projects. Now let's just get them that piece of paper that says, yep, I know how to run them and I can run them well.
Hmm.
Our biggest hurdle, I would say, in the beginning was market penetration, like
Hmm.
trying to get our name out there and establish a trust proposition. Not necessarily always a value proposition, but a trust proposition in the sense that, hey, I trust that you're going to be the one that's going to help me through this and hand me a map, hand me a flashlight, hand me a compass. You're going to get me to where I want to go because back to what I said before, they're not trusting us with their personal money, but they're trusting us
Hmm.
with their time
Yeah.
and the output,
And the vision too, right? Of like,
right?
hey, here's what we'll be able to achieve, huh? That's
And does it
interesting.
align with my purpose? Because I don't
Yeah.
know what I don't know. Like when I first took the PMP, I couldn't spell it. Right, I had no idea. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I had a buddy, a fellow airman with me, take me in there by the hand and said, "Hey, dude, sign up for this class." Like,
Mm.
okay, why? But uh, by the end of it, I realized, man, that is the stuff that I do every single day as a non-commissioned officer. And that's anybody that's, in the Marines E4 and above, in most of the other service E5 and above. So you've been there for a little bit, 2 to 5 years ish, and you're making decisions. You're putting out fires. I didn't realize I was a
Mhm.
fireman until I got, some responsibility. And it's every day. It's like, oh, put
Yeah.
out that fire. Oh, put out that
Mhm.
fire. Well, how do I do it? Through multi-criteria decision making. And so you
Mhm.
take all this input in, and then you make a good decision based on the information that you have at hand. And that's a project management term.
Yeah. Huh. That's quite so interesting. And as you guys were figuring those out and putting the blocks together and sorting out, I guess you mentioned the trust proposition, which is so interesting. And that word trust keeps coming back with almost every conversation that I have. How does that differ from where you guys are going, where you guys go through now? What are maybe some of the challenges that you have in the business now to be able to keep increasing the impact, but also the growth of the organization?
Yeah, I think the word that just comes to mind is scalability, right?
Mm.
So everything we did when we were like 4 employees, we had built it to scale. We always were thinking 10x. So we're
Mm-hmm.
always thinking, hey, if we did 200, let's do 2,000. Well, now we're doing 2,000. So now we got to think 20,000. So
Mm-hmm.
everything's a scalability, one to many, not one to one. Like I don't have time to talk to 2,000 students for 30 minutes, you
Yeah.
know, every year. It just is not going to work out. And when we go to 20,000, we just got to come up with newer, innovative ways
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that they're still getting that personal touch that we demand, but also the ability to scale it and talk to more folks. And
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of going through that growth. It's not, I wouldn't say a growth pain, but it's definitely growth awareness, right? We're,
Mm-hmm.
we're,
Yeah.
we're in an awareness state that, wow, this is getting more complex because we onboarded, went from 10 up to 14 employees over the last 2 months. So now that's going to change the dynamics of the entire company, the way we
Mm-hmm.
communicate, the way we distribute responsibilities.
Yeah.
By the way, someone's better start checking on if people are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. As it starts going, it's like, okay, it's almost like the everything starts to level up, but then people start to get, because it starts to level up, people start to get a little bit less detached from every single thing. But it's like, hey, that thing is still important. Who's watching over that? So it's great that you bring that up. It sounds like the goal then is actually, correct me if I'm wrong. So is the goal then reaching as many vets as possible to bring them on board, or is the goal reaching more companies to have more partnerships with the companies there, and look at that side of the business? So yeah, I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, it's actually both
Okay.
in a very real sense.
Hmm.
There's 240,000 exiting veterans. Of that, probably our target demographic. We're not going to help lawyers become lawyers. That's not what we're tooled for. We're not going to, if you
Hmm.
want to be a dentist, well, you got to go to dental school, right?
Yeah.
What we can help you do is land a, $90,000 on average job through one of our many certifications. So we
Hmm.
pick certifications that help you become managers of whatever. So plan, lead, organize and control assets and resources in different specialties. So there's
Hmm.
general management, and then there's specialized management. Project management is a subset of management, and it's a specialized management of dealing with, pretty much people resources, getting things
Hmm.
done, time deadlines. And so that's really what we're after. I'd say about 60-75% of the 240,000 fall under general management in some way. It may not
Hmm.
be their dream job, but it sure is nice hunting for a job when you've got food on the plate, right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Right.
Yeah, better to go out hunting with a full belly than with an empty belly. a
That's
thousand percent.
that's
Yeah,
right.
and go ahead, sorry, finish your
Well, I
thought.
would just say that's exactly right. Don't wait till the food's gone to go hunting, right?
Perfect. Yeah, and it sounds like I really like I'm understanding the dynamic of the business, but I'm just trying to I guess pinpoint when it comes to the actual, as you mentioned, the scalability of where that comes from. Obviously, you need vets to be able to provide them for the corporations, the organizations that you partner with. but the vets are mostly not paying out of pocket themselves. So that's, I'm assuming that that's not where the money comes in for the business. It comes from the corporations, but you need one to be supplementing the other. So as this one or the vets are coming up, then you're like, okay, we also need more corporations or organizations to be able to send these vets to. Is that all correct?
Yeah, we do make money on the training side of
Oh,
things
okay.
through some of those credential and licensing things. It's just not the veterans' money, right? So it's
Okay, because it gets funded. That makes sense.
right.
It goes back to where you said the grants and the funds in the beginning.
Yeah,
That clears it up. Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
That's the business value there, but that's not the only business value.
Hmm.
So it, we usually kind of explain this as I use tires, right? So
Sure.
and not to be derogatory towards any veteran, I'm a veteran. We serve the best people in the world and all this, but this is more of a just a word picture, if you will.
Sure.
Continental makes tires. The way they make money is by putting them on cars.
Hmm.
But sometimes, they got to make the tires, get them in the warehouse because the size of the tire that you want may not be on that conveyor belt right then. So
Of
they got to
course.
warehouse these tires.
Hmm.
So our veterans, we go and turn them from, all the raw materials of everything they need to know. They're managers. They
Hmm.
just don't know how to speak like them. They can't translate it in the way that the
Hmm.
business world values it. So we get them into the factory,
Hmm.
we polish them up, we put them back into, now they're a nice shiny radial that
Hmm.
goes onto the shelf. When that company comes by and says, "Hey, I need a radial that'll fit a 205/77 R16." Got it. We have your tire.
Perfect.
It's
Boom.
right here. Pull
Huh.
it up. Oh, you want four of them? Great. Complete the set.
Yeah, that was a great analogy. I really like that you shared that. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering on your side now, Jeremy, you went through the program as well. What is there something that you wish you knew before you took action? And you mentioned there was like some hesitation of like, why would I even do this thing? Like, how does that apply to me? Is there anything that you wish you knew? One, before you went through the program, and two, now that you're in the business and you see how the impact can help so many people. Anything you wish you knew before you're like, if I only done this, it would have made these other things so much simpler.
Yeah, yeah. I do wish 100% that I would have done this when I was a lot younger,
Hmm.
right? So I'd served 21 years. I took the class when I had like 19 and a half, I think, years in. So I already knew it was getting close to the end, close to
Hmm.
retirement. I wish I would have done it when I was like the E5 or in the Marines, like a brand new NCO, because
Hmm.
all the tools that I learned were so incredibly useful in service. But then it would have gave me all that experience, all that time to use the tools, techniques, and procedures of
Hmm.
like project management, for example. But this is indicative of any certification. Get it, use the tools, become a master of those tools. And then when you're ready to get out, then you have the conversation with the hiring manager and your whole language is about that job position. So
Hmm.
I messed up my first couple interviews, put foot and mouth disease, right? Like it was terrible. I had never in 21 years held all the positions that you could hold, tactical,
Yeah.
operational and strategic level positions. Yet I never interviewed for a job.
Hmm.
Maybe one or two here or there with a commander, but they pretty much already had found out that they're going to hire me, right? So
Yeah. It's just more like a
formality, right?
formality. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
word. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And they had the choice. There's like four or five other people, but let's face it, I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't what you would call fastball interviews
hmm.
questions because the language was familiar to me. The only reason an question feels like it's a hard question because you're not prepared for it.
Hmm.
I was prepared. I was an expert airman, right? I knew
Hmm.
my job and I knew my job well. Take that same fish, move him into a different pond. That's a different ball game. So when I
Yeah.
got some interview questions from there, I was like, I don't even know the vocabulary to start to answer the
Hmm.
question. And that's why we do provide like a free book it's how to speak civilian fluently. Doc wrote it. It was a passion of love, where he just went through and basically said, okay, this word in the military is this word in the civilian world. And oh, by the way, you need to know these four things. It's like an MBA in
Hmm.
your pocket. So
Hmm.
we give that away free.
That's awesome. And I have two final questions here for you, Jeremy. One is a question that I've been asking everybody. So I'll start with that, which is, let's say you had a magic wand and you could just wave this wand and it can solve one thing in the business, maybe a challenge, an obstacle that would lead to the growth that you guys are looking for. What would the one thing that you solve be?
Ooh, good one. I think for me, it would be making sure that everybody understands their role and what they do best, but also becomes experts at the part of their job they're not an expert at today. Like
Hmm.
become, multilateral value. And then we've got to be able to repeat that. So it's for me right now in my current role in operations, it's all about repeatable, durable, and scalable. So
Hmm.
those are the things I look for. And if I could wave my wand and like get everybody to row in the same
Yeah.
direction, to build revenue for the company so that we can hire. So I know it's hard on some people. Some people, they're working way more hours than they're getting paid for.
Mm.
And frankly, that hurts me inside because it's a value. That part is a value proposition. Like we
Mm.
talk about that. You come to work, you get a wage. That's a transaction for your hours and time of life
Hmm.
that you can't be having outside, work. And I keep that deeply, at least close to my heart, to where I want to make sure you feel like it's a value proposition. Now we've got the best employees in the world because
Hmm.
most of them are veterans, and they're doing it to fill that service hole. Like you've served your whole life, and then you get out, and then you've got this vacuum, and you're like, I got
Hmm.
to serve my fellow brother and sister that are still in uniform, which
Hmm.
is really why I'm still around, because I don't feel like I can quit until we've got 240,000 folks into the company and having these great transitions, right? So
Hmm.
that's really my internal goal. But to answer your question, that would be it.
That's awesome. I really, really like the perspective. And final question here for you, Jeremy. It's actually not a question from me. It's a question from the last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. Ready for the
Okay.
question?
Yeah.
Perfect. There's often so much sacrifice when being in business. What is your optimal way to maintain a work-life balance?
Ooh, yeah. Good one. I think for me, I'm a huge RV fan.
Okay.
So me and the wife, and I've got four daughters, by the way, and I've
Mm.
got four sisters. So uh,
No
I'm
sons in the mist.
no sons. I'm a minority in a sorority, So like it. But one of the things that we did when my oldest, she actually works for the company. So
Oh wow,
how
nice.
great is that? She's
That's
she's
awesome.
an adult, has a couple kids, my grandkids, and we started RVing with them young. And what we did was we found out that when we pull off and the key hits the ignition and we're heading to our next destination, maybe unknown, the cell phones start to drop. The information overload starts to subside, and we
Hmm.
can see the quietness of the things that we're serving, right? The
Hmm.
good human. I haven't been to a place, and I know people complain about regionally, hey,
Sure.
don't go to California, or, stay out of New York City. I have found across the world, people are people.
Hmm.
And I'm talking internationally. I mean, I've been on almost every continent in the world serving in the military, to include, Far East Asia, Japan, Middle East, I mean, we've Europe. It's people are people. And if you get them one on one, they're usually very wonderful, and they're
Hmm.
additive, and they look for ways to help you out. It's just when we get into a group, something weird happens,
Yeah.
and, and you kind of polarize for some odd reason. But one on one, I've found people are great. And so what we do is we go camp, and
Hmm.
we just kind of get back to family and roots. And we'd invite as many people as we can. Not everybody always shows up, but when they do, it's a wonderful time.
That's so awesome. I really love that perspective. Jeremy, thank you so much for being on here. I want you to please shout out anything that you want to. Where can people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, or if they want to learn a little bit more about Vets2PM?
Yeah, just check out vets2pm.com. I mean, we do skill bridge, we do training, but what we really do is we do you. I mean, that's we want to be what you need in your moment, right? We think we've got a really good template for about 60 to 80% of you,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you right now, we always create new pathways. Like we didn't have cyber IT, we created it
Hmm.
because people said they want it. So if you walk into the hallway of the Military Transition Academy that I call Vets2PM, I want you to find a hallway that fits you and a door you can knock on, because we're here to serve you guys.
Amazing. Jeremy, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.